Hello everyone, my name is Anthony, aka Tone114, and today I'll be bringing you my Week 5 match of the National Exhibition Syndicate when I was versus CEO Cadelic, coach of the Cleveland Escavaliers. If you missed my team builder, the link will be in the description down below. And coming into this match, especially after what happened last week, I knew I had to regain my momentum, keep pushing forward, and try not to make the same mistakes I did last week. So this week I brought a bit of a more cohesive team, made sure I was prepared for all of his big prominent threats. So if you don't feel like watching my team builder, just giving a brief description of my team, I have offensive Sheer Force Dragon with the Soul Fest with Dragon Claw, Gunshot, Fire Punch, and Sucker Punch. I have my Volt Absorb Lantern with Scald, Ice Beam, Volt Switch, and Toxic. I have my Tail Glow 3 attacks, Wakan Berry Manaphy with Scald, Tail Glow, Ice Beam, and Energy Ball. I have my physically defensive Rosalie Berry Hitmontop with Counter, Close Combat, Stone Edge, and Toxic. I have my special wall, my Blissey with Soft Boiled, Stealth Rock, Toxic, and Flamethrower. And last but not least, I have Choice Scarf Cabalion with Close Combat, Iron Head, Zen Headbutt, and Stone Edge. Now, looking at my opponent's team, he brings the Thunder Asterion, the Victini, the Breloom, Vaporeon, Nidoking, and the Scizor. First thing I noticed, I was surprised that I did not see Mega Absol, so Hitmontop serves a bit of a less. Hitmontop is more expendable in this battle, as its main response was to check Mega Absol, and to surprise the Grand Bull, he did not bring neither of them. Another thing I noticed on his team, he did not bring a Hazard Remover, he doesn't have Mega Absol, he didn't bring Armaldo, so my plan initially was to make sure I get up rocks early on the field. However, when it came to a lead, Blissey does not have the advantage against most of his Pokemon. It cannot go up against the Victini, it could not go up against Breloom, it couldn't go up against Scizor, and I kind of didn't want to go up against Nidoking somewhat. But I knew that I would have an opportunity to set up rocks if I have an opportunity to get in on the Vaporeon. So, as for potential leads on his end, I was expecting either the Victini or the possible Breloom to lead, or the Scizor, one of those three Pokemon. I figured in this battle that since my most expendable Pokemon would be my Hitmontop, but it serves less of a purpose other than like intimidating the Victini, intimidating the Breloom, and the Scizor, and that's really it. So I figured, why not lead over my Hitmontop? It's not doing much of anything else in this battle. So let's see what happens. So I lead over with my Hitmontop. He ends up leading off with that Victini. So here, turn one, I'm already thinking in the back of my mind, does he really go for a Zen Headbutt here? And then I'm like, no. Because I'm not sure a -1 Zen Headbutt from a Victini will take out my Hitmontop. And I don't want to reveal that I have counter on this Hitmontop at all. So I figured, you know what? If he Zen Headbutts me, I should live as long as I don't get flinched. I'm gonna go for the Stone Edge. I mean, it's kind of safe but at the same time, he does have switch-ins to Stone Edge. He has the Breloom, and he has the Scizor and the Nidoking. So I figured he's not going to really Zen Headbutt me at this point in the game, turn one. No. And I'm not going to risk counter if he's like a special variant. So I go for the Stone Edge here. I need to go for the U-turn. It's a nice safe play on his part as he switches out into his Scizor here. And I go off the Stone Edge, and I get a turn one crit. I don't know how much that crit mattered, but I did do a good 32% to the Scizor on the crit. Now same thing from turn one. I'm thinking in the back of my head, will he go for not Bullet Punch? Will he go for will he surprise me with Aerial Ace or something like that? Or maybe try to get off some damage with Superpower? And do I reveal counter now? And then I'm thinking, and I'm like, no, hold off again. Revealing counter won't do you any good if he's sword stance, which I do not want to risk here. So instead, he has the leftovers, so it's all of the possibility he was sword stance roost. Instead, I'm surprisingly faster than the Scizor, which shows me he's not running any speed on the Scizor. He goes for the U-turn instead, and he goes back out he goes into Thunderous this time. And from here, there's no reason for me to stay in on this Thunderous. He can do too much damage to me if he has like hidden power flying or possible psychic. He can't go for Thunderbolt because my obvious switching would be the Lantern. So I make that play. I go directly into Luminatti, my Lantern. And he decides to go for the psychic, which gets off a good 27%. So I'm covering the help with that leftovers. So now I predict him to go into Vaporeon on the Ice Beam of the Skull, and I get off a nice Toxic. Now I'm predicting his Vaporeon to go for Toxic as well. So here's my chance to go into my Blissey and finally get up my Stealth Rocks. He goes for the Toxic, poison my Blissey, don't really care. And now gives me the opportunity to get up my Stealth Rocks like I wanted. He goes for the Wish, I get up my Rocks. I don't really care what he does here. So I'm going to switch out because I don't really have anything else to do to this Vaporeon as he goes out into Nidoking. And I decide to double out into my Hitmontop. My Lantern here, as he sort of predicts me to come in on like a Scald or something like that. So I decide to double out back into my Blissey, and it shows he's actually physical Nidoking, which took me by surprise. So instead of staying in and trying to fish out my Earthquake, he decides to go into Bloom as I double out as I go out into my Hitmontop, get the Intimidate off, and it turns out he's Poison Field Breloom. And then he switches into his Nidoking again. I go for the close combat because I figure why not. Still get off a good amount of damage on the Nidoking. And then I decided he's going to switch out now back into Scizor. I had no reason not to just stay in. I go for counter this time because I see he had Earthquake. And I figured that even though I was -1 defense, I figured that I would not be knocked out by an Earthquake. So I figured, okay, he uses Earthquake on my Hitmontop, I get the counter off, I get rid of the Nidoking. Unfortunately, that did not happen. But then, as it turns out from earlier, since he's not running speed on his Scizor, my Hitmontop, which is uninvested and is naturally faster, is going to come in and just finish off this Scizor with a close combat. It picks up its first kill of the season. So with Scizor down, my Blissey has a little bit less of use to use Flamethrower. He goes back out into his Thunderous Therian. I go into my Lantern here on a potential Psychic, and again, not doing that much to my Lantern here as it completely stops his plans. He switches out into his Breloom, and I'm like, okay, I'm going over Ice Beam regardless. That's a good amount, doesn't knock out the Breloom, but I don't want to stand risking taking the Seed Bomb because I need it for my Thunderous. So I decided to go right back down to Hitmontop, get this Intimidate off. He goes for the Seed Bomb, does a good amount of damage, just wearing down my Hitmontop, limiting its potential switch-ins as he goes back out into Nidoking to take another close combat. And the lack of it's easily wearing down this Nidoking for my other Pokemon. I decided to just let my my Hitmontop go down simply because I didn't have a good switch into Earthquake. All of my Pokemon were grounded, and I didn't want to risk any of my other Pokemon taking any damage. So I figured I'll just sack my Hitmontop. It did its job. It did more than it should have this battle, as it was really expendable, but I made it work for me. Now I go out into Manaphy here, and I'm thinking, okay, Scald or Ice Beam is too obvious of a play. And then I ran a calc on this. Set on my Manaphy to see if an Energy Ball would take out Nidoking from the range it's at, and the calc said that Energy Ball does about 37% minimum to Nidoking, so I had no reason not to Energy Ball here, because if he goes out into Vaporeon and hit it with a nice big Energy Ball, he doesn't want to take any extra damage, and I had nothing to lose in this case simply because I'm going to take out this Nidoking whatsoever, but what I didn't expect was he was Scarf Nidoking, So it got off some damage on my Manaphy before I went down, but Manaphy gets his third kill of the season. He goes back out into Victini. My play 100% in the situation is to go directly out into my Jernigan, eat up any attack from the Victini. See, bulk strike does 0 to my Jernigan, and I'm not even physically defensive. So he goes out into his Vaporeon here. I'm just going to go for the safe Dragon Claw here, as his Dragon Resist is gone. So it's a nice 2 KO on this Vaporeon from the range it's at. He goes for the Wish as I finish off the Vaporeon with a Dragon Claw, and Jernigan gets its first kill of the season. So now his play, he goes into Breloom, and here's where I make a slight of a miss. I made a little bit of a misplay here because I decided that instead of my play here for the most part was actually to sack off Blissey because its usefulness has kind of died down in this battle. Its main purpose was to make sure it got up rocks, and it did. So I'm going to keep on pressuring his Thundurus, keep pressuring the Victini. But instead of going out into Blissey to sack it off, I leave it in and let my Dragon put to sleep by Spore, which was kind of bad for me. Another thing I did, he got the Wish from the Vaporeon. Another thing I did, I let it stay in and take a Facade from this Breloom, and that was very dumb of me because I needed to keep this thing healthy for the Victini, as it walled it. But then I'm also thinking in the back of my mind that Victini has already taken damage from Stealth Rocks, and if it comes in again, it'll take another 25%, it'll be down to 51%, and Sucker Punch does 51% minimum to a Victini. So it was in a pretty good position nonetheless. So it kind of helped with the fact that my Jernigan didn't get knocked out this turn, and if I actually didn't get the 2-turn wait, if I actually got a 3. See, I burn another turn of sleep, and then eventually here I'm going to switch out and sacrifice the Blissey here to the Breloom. As he goes for the Drain Punch, I hit the Chapel Berry, and for some gosh reason I live, but it didn't really matter. I sack off my Blissey here to get us free switching to my Manaphy here, and then here's my plan is, well, Ice Beam probably will not knock it out from full, but it should do enough damage to the point where my Cobalion can come in afterwards and revenge kill with the close combat. And he's already revealed his entire set to me that he does not have Mach Punch. He has Spore, Facade, Seed Bomb, Drain Punch, no Mach Punch. So my plan here with Manaphy was just to sack off the Manaphy, whether I knock out the Breloom with the Ice Beam, or I do enough damage to the point where someone else can come in. And it just missed out on the knockoff as Breloom comes in and kills me, my Manaphy, with the Seed Bomb. That's not a big deal. He gets Poison Hill Recovery. Now I go out into my Cobalion here. I can just click Close Combat, no problem. As he goes out into his Thundurus, takes Stealth Rock damage. I click the Close Combat, and that's a 2-hit KO after all that Rocks damage that he's been taking, which was my plan. My Cobalion then comes in, takes out the Thundurus Therian, picks up kill number 2, I believe, on the season. He goes on to Victini. My switching is Lantern. My backup switch in the Lantern. Goes for that V-Create, eats it up, taking only 40%. So now after this turn here, I have one of two options actually. It's either to click Scald and risk him switching out to Breloom, and it doesn't kill after the rocks damage, or I click Ice Beam, predicting him to switch into Breloom, and then he tries to come back out into Victini, try to get one more V create off. But even if he knocks out the Victini, even if he knocks out my Lantern, with V create, my Cobalion just cleans up from here. So my play was to either Scald the Victini in front of me, or Ice Beam, predicting him to switch out into Breloom. So instead of trying to be overzealous here, I just decided to go for Ice Beam because I'm pretty much that much closer to victory. So he decides to switch out to his Breloom as I go for the Ice Beam, that's a safe play sort of at this point. So go out into Ice Beam the Breloom, take it out, and then his last hope here is to hope that V create can take out my lantern, but the problem is at this range that the last V create did about 40% to this lantern. I am max defense. I'm max defense, max special defense lantern, and the last V create did 40%. I'm expecting the V create to do about the same amount of damage, and even if the Victini takes out the lantern, the defense drop means that my Cavalier into close combat definitely one-hit KOs this Victini. So it's either I was going to take a 3-0 victory or a 2-0 victory. So he has no choice but to V-create me, and he does not take me out, and I managed to take out the Lantern, takes out the Victini with the Skull, and that is going to be a good game. We have come back, and we have taken a 3-0 victory over the Cleveland Escavaliers. It was a nice rebound for me after what happened last week. We are back on the winning track. We are now 4-1 on the season with a differential now of +5. Cadelic is now 2-3 with a differential of -1. Do not act up, Mr. Phone. Thank you. Anyway, this was a really, really fun battle. I felt as though I had all the bases covered with what my opponent might have brought. I made sure I had my switch-ins down packed. I made sure my win condition were intact with my Surf Cavalier. I made sure that I got my rocks up, which was very essential for me. And overall, everything paid off in the end, with Lantern putting in more work than I actually expected it to in this battle, but it did its job. It prevented the Thunderers from using its electric stab. It gave me a backup check to that Victini, took out the breathing from a weakened state, really held its own in its first match for the Maine Red Clawitzers, and also props to the Hitmontop too. Its role was deteriorated in its battle, but I still got to kill the Scizor, which is very, very nice. And looking to keep up this momentum, moving on to week 6 now of the NES, where next week I'll be taking on the AC Lanterns, who are currently 3-1. They have not played their week 5 match yet, but I am not looking forward to this matchup whatsoever. Just to give you a brief preview of my opponent's team for week 6, if you've ever watched the Global Battle Association